Good day, Grand Lakers. It's March 5th, 2026, and I want to welcome you to the next Grand Lake SportsCenter Rodcast. I am Sam Williams, and it is truly a privilege and an honor to bring this to you again. This Rodcast is about legacy, community, and the people who built this area. We had a special guest today, but unforeseen things happened and he couldn't make it. So I will be telling about the history of the bobber drop and how it put Grand Lake Sports Center on the map. So let's start with the lake level lowdown. So the lake level is at 742, and it's still got all that greenish color to it. So it hasn't changed a lot. But with all the inflow coming in, within the next day or two, things are really going to switch up a bunch. So boaters and anglers, please plan accordingly and stay safe while you're out there. I do have a chart that I want to show everybody. This is something I pulled up on the broadcast of the lake level for the year on how they want to conduct it. So I'm going to try to hold it up long enough so if you have to play this back, you can pull that up and take a picture of it so you'll know what the plan is for the Corps. The bite on Grand Lake. So you want to keep a close eye on the barometric pressure because as it's dropping, the feeding spikes. The crappie bite is on jigs and minnows right now in about 10 to 12 feet of water. So I want to show you another little thing that I found on how crappie, the reaction of the day. I want to hold it up for a little bit. So if you want, you can take a picture of it later on when you can go back and look at it and give you some kind of an idea of how crappie react to the day. The bass are between bluffs and gravel bars is what's being reported to us. Red and orange crawdad colors seem to be what everybody wants. Alabama rigs also are the big thing right now. The catfish are still in about 40 to 50 feet of water, and just stay close to all the big bait trails, and you'll go right down through them and get down to the bottom, and you'll catch them up. The white bass are still catching them up in Spring River, but down by the dam with all that generation, I've got reports it's on fire down there. They're having a good time every cast. The spoonbill is still good between Sailboat and Patricia Island. So in the tournament trail, in the Anglers in Action tournament on March 1st, Landon and Rich took first place with 28.71 pounds. Second place was Nick and Wyatt with 23.60 pounds. The largest fish was 7.33. 12 of the anglers in the tournament all had over 20 pounds. Congratulations to all you guys. That was a really good tournament. So what I want to talk about now is I want to talk about the legacy of the bobber drop and how it all got created. And I hope you enjoy what I'm going to do. I'm going to be showing a lot of pictures. So I'm going to give you time to, get a good look at each and every one of them. So when I bought the business, my father, Dave Williams, show you a picture of him. Everybody in this town knows who this guy is. He's a real hard act to follow. So he brought me a file that he found in my grandpa's books, and it said float drop. So I took the file and I opened it up and I read it, and it explained to me what my grandpa did from 1951 to 1961. And he came up with this idea on this bobber drop. So it was not my idea, but I did bring it back to life, and it was a lot of hard work. So one of the pictures that I found in that file was back in the day, GRDA flew the drop for my grandpa. And I don't know if you remember Hubert Loeb, a little icon in this town. He worked for my grandpa. But here he is loading the bobbers in the airplane. The GRDA, they flew the drop. So I don't know back in the day how many bobbers that my grandpa dropped, but he had a list of how he organized it and put it together with all the people that donated prizes and the resorts and how they advertised it. So I kind of studied up on it, and I just kind of did an upbeat from that. So when I first started the drop, I did it out of a helicopter. And I think everybody remembers the first 2 years that I did that. So it was a little crazy. So we would almost fly on top of your boat, and you could almost grab the skid on that chopper. I'd blow the hats right off your head, the seat cushions right out of your boat. You all loved it. You just ate it up. You thought it was the best thing there ever was. So the second year, it got a little crazy, and GRDA gave me a real good spanking for that one. So it got a little nutty out there, and they said I could never do it again. So, I thought about it for a few months, and then I asked them, I said, it was really good for the area. I said, what if I do it out of an airplane? I go, it'll slow it way down, and it won't be quite so crazy. And uh, they thought about it and thought about it, and they said, you know what, we're going to give you one more shot at this. So we did it out of the airplane, and it was a great success. It slowed it way down. We could cover the area much quicker, and it wasn't quite so chaotic. The helicopter would scoot along, and everybody would just keep trying to get underneath it and follow us all the way around. So the airplane worked much better. And you can see here in this picture how the bobbers are coming out of the plane. Here's a little better picture right here that somebody brought me. It's got a picture of me up in the sky. So it's really fun to be up there. You can't believe how many people wanted to help me. It was outrageous how many people wanted. I said, you know what? There's only room for me and 8,000 bobbers and a pilot and a co-pilot to help me get all these bobbers out of the plane. So it's a lot of work. You have no idea. So when I planned the drop, we took off from the airport and we flew down into the backside of Honey Creek. And we went down through there, and there was boats, in the backside back there. But as soon as we hit Honey Creek Bridge, it was chaos. I mean, there must have been 200 boats and wave runners sitting there. And they were all waiting. They were all waving nets. They were all just swinging noodles and life jackets, and they were just so excited that I was coming across. I did make a mistake, though. When I was flying over the bridge, the plane is pointed up at an angle. I can't see. So the people in the front seat have to tell me when to stop and when to start throwing the bobbers. Well, that time we didn't have that plan. So when I threw all the bobbers out and they landed on the highway. So Honey Creek Bridge Highway was a mess. People were stopping and slamming on their brakes. They were running all over the bridge trying to pick up those bobbers. So we learned from that experience right there, never to do that again. So as we moved on from there, we shot over to Monkey Island, and we got in through there, and I kind of swung around up by Patricia a little bit, and I came back around. We hit the tip of Monkey Island. We went back around. We came over Governor's Island. I flew up through there. We went up to Horse Creek. I went under the Bernice Bridge, and I'm telling you, that whole area, there was hundreds and hundreds of boats and wave runners. So we went under the bridge, and we flew all the way over to what I call No End Bridge. And we did a U-turn there and came back over the bridge. And we came back a little bit down Horse Creek, and I turned towards Shangri-La. And we went over the land for a little bit, and we popped out over the water, and about halfway, just a little up from Patricia Island. And we turned there and went towards Sailboat Bridge. And I'm telling you what, there was boats everywhere. It was just crazy. So we flew up, we went over Sailboat Bridge, and they were just thick. They were everywhere. And I went up through there. I followed the river, and I flew all the way up. I went to Blue Bluff. Went back around. We went over to the Elk River Bridge. I flew over that bridge, and I went all the way back as far as I could to those little islands over by the Cayuga Church. I made a U-turn there. We went back. We flew the same pattern a second time. So we threw half the bobbers the first time, half the bobbers the second time. And the neat thing about the airplane was Well, here's one of the banners that we used to hang around town to let everybody get ready for this big event. And that was another one that we had made through the years. And that first year I had a mascot. Her name is Faith. She's my little Faith, and I love her to death. And she sat in a big bathtub full of bobbers while we were mixing them up. It was quite the little thing. I think she still remembers that because she did it years after that. It was every year she'd get in that bathtub and stir them up. So it was a lot of fun. And here's another picture of us sitting in the store, just getting ready for everybody to get going. And I used to have dogs in the store. I had a Shepherd and a Saint Bernard. And this is Jessie. Jessie was in the store all the time. Everybody loved Jessie, but she was a real lover about attention. So she had to be in the picture for the bobber drop. So I had a lot of slime in my ear from that picture. It was pretty fun. So here's another ad that we had. I had an old picture of the store and just some of the advertising that we had through the years. We had so much advertising. They had me go down and do the TV stations, Channel 6, Channel 8. I did the radio stations. I did the newspapers. I couldn't believe how big it got, and it was a fun thing. Here's another picture of us in the store, and we're just getting ready to get started on the bobber drop, get going that day. So I have another picture. This is me sitting in the plane. Okay, so we had to make a cardboard trough, and it's suspended in the front of the plane in front of me. And as we go, and it's open, so I had bags of like 150 bobbers at a time in a bag, and I would rip it open, I would dump it in that trough, and then I would hand the bag to the co-pilot because we could not let a bag get out of the plane. It could get up in the prop, it could cause some damage. And I had a lot of bags, okay? So it took a lot of people to do this effort. And on the outside of the plane, I had a tube that we made, and it attached to the end of that trough. And as it went down to the side of the plane, where it came out under the landing gear, we pitched it at a 45-degree angle. So as we're flying, that created a venturi. So inside that little trough that I built inside the plane, it was like a vacuum cleaner. It just suction was incredible. So that's how we got the bobbers out of the plane. We just feed them out like that. A lot of effort to get it ready. I had to have super strong zip ties. We had to make sure that thing was not going to come off the plane. The insurance on this event was amazing. You have no idea. For 1 hour, it was crazy. So in that event, we were flying one time, and we were almost a sailboat bridge, and the chute got plugged, and we couldn't get the bobbers out of the chute. It was jammed up. And I told Brad, I said, we're going to have to go back to the airport. We're going to have to land and get this thing unjammed. And I said, wow. And he goes, let me try something. So he sat there and he took the tail fin and he shook it back and forth. It was like a jackhammer in that plane. I mean, he beat us to death in that airplane, thinking it was going to shake those bobbers loose. But it did not. It didn't do a thing. And I said, Brad, I think we're going to have to go land. He goes, I got one more thing to try. Now, Brad, he's, early 60s. I didn't expect this. And he went straight up in the air. And I mean, he went up to where it almost stalled. And he turned that nose back down, and we came straight down looking at the water. It was zero gravity. It was an unbelievable feeling. The best roller coaster ride I ever had in my life. And those bobbers came floating back up out of that tube into that tray. And they were floating around in front of me. I thought I was hallucinating. I thought somebody slipped something in my water, because it was just crazy, crazy. But it unplugged it. And we turned back down, we straightened up the plane, and it started sucking the bobbers back out again. It it was quite a ride. I asked him if we could do it again. He goes, no, once enough. So we had a lot of fun with that. So we got to fly around. We got over to the Cayuga, went back, made our second round through there. There's my little mascot again, and another little picture. So one of the ads they had, it was cloudy with a chance of bobbers. It was a huge thing. I never knew that we would fill up motels within 50 miles of Grove. There would be hundreds and hundreds of boats and wave runners that would show up. Um, the people came from all over the United States. It was unbelievable, and we even had them from Europe. It was the word got to their friends in Europe. They had the experience, and they came over. So it was. We never thought it would get that big, but anybody that got to do it during that time, they still come in the store wanting me to do it again. But it just got a little too crazy. So here's a picture of me in the plane again. And this is Julie McCarthy and Brad Hayes. They're the ones that made this all possible. They were the pilots. They helped me get this thing put together. They were so patient with me. They helped put the chutes up. They were just wonderful people. So these are people that we have to thank that made this possible and made it safe. So I can never thank them enough for what they did. So then one year, Brad, he couldn't make it, and he had to get one of his friends to fly for us. So we get to the airport, we get everything loaded up in the plane, and we're all getting inside the plane, and he goes to start that plane, and it's ring, 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 ring. I mean, we did that for a couple of minutes, and then I go, "What's that smell?" And we got out of that plane. There was gas all over that runway. It was just running out of that engine. And we said, oh my gosh, I got thousands of people out there waiting on me. So we had to push the plane down the runway. So we get back in the plane, try it again. And he goes, oh, I forgot to hit a switch. And he hit that switch. When that motor started, you have no idea the peace that I had inside my heart just to know that it was started. So here we go. Let's go get this done. So we had another successful bobber drop at that time. So here's a picture of me sitting in the back with the bobbers. And that's just not a very good picture. When we take off, the whole back of the plane is buried. I'm up to my neck in bobbers, and I can't move until we get through dropping all these bobbers. And there's another plane. There's some people having fun, people just out there in their boats waiting on me, waiting on me to come by. So here's a picture of some little kids getting their thing done, having the time of their life. And people, they used to dress up in costumes with bobbers all over them. They'd write my name on their shirts. They'd have big sheets on their boat that says right here, Sam, or had bullseyes painted on them. I mean, it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. But I'll tell you one thing. It's the best time to sell nets in a sporting goods store because, man, I didn't have enough. I mean, I thought I did, but, man, those nets were flying out of there. Every kid had to have his own net. So here's another picture of a family that drew a bullseye for me to be sure I hit their boat. Okay? Pretty crazy stuff. So here's another boat with a bunch of bobber people on it. So one year I had a guy, he's in a pontoon boat, and he's got a net that's got about a 40-foot handle on it. And he reaches over to a pontoon full of kids that I flooded with bobbers. And he stuck that net in the water and went down the side of that pontoon and took all those bobbers away from those kids. And we were just shocked. And a guy on a wave runner, he saw what happened. He pulls up to that boat, parks it, puts 1 foot on that deck, and I can see him just giving that guy the riot act. And that guy reached back over to that boat and shook all those bobbers back out and put them back in the water for those kids. Yahoo! That was awful cool. So the guy did have a heart. There's another little picture of a bobber thing. So once we here's I mean, people, they just flat get crazy out there. I mean, you just can't believe it. Sometimes you'd have somebody on a wave runner, and the person on the back would have a net in both hands with a coffee can between their legs, and it was like a sport. I mean, they were just, it was like it was like a sport, making like the biggest badminton game you ever saw. So uh, we were very fortunate with all the businesses in the community. They donated prizes for us to give away. And when you give stuff away, people come out of the woodwork. That's one of the reasons it made it so special. So, I mean, the banks used to give us trips to the Bahamas. Uh, I had farmers. I've had 2 cows given to me. We gave away 2 cows. I had a Maltese puppy dog, $1,000 dog a lady donated. I mean, it's incredible. That dog has a very good story. So a little girl came in and she was staying with her grandmother, and it was in the paper about this dog, and her dog just got killed. And she watched it happen in front of her house. And she was very upset. So she come in and she says, Grandma, we're going to go to do that bobber drop. We're going to win that dog. So she goes, okay, I hope so, honey. So the day of the bobber drop, they come in the store and they got a Ziploc bag full of bobbers. And that little girl, she's just so excited. And she looked around and she saw other little kids that didn't have bobbers. And she started handing those bobbers out of that bag to make sure other kids had a bobber. And the grandmother said, I thought you wanted to win that dog. And she goes, I am. And she got down to 1 bobber. And when she went up to the Rotarians to go to those spreadsheets and go down to that prize, she won that dog. This was an act of God. I'm not kidding you. The whole place got jet quiet. And if you've ever seen a bobber turn in, it's elbow to elbow. It's total chaos. And it was total silence. It was just an amazing thing. So the nice thing about the bobber drop, it brought families together. It brought true family and friendship. And that family was against the other family in that boat, and that boat, and that boat. And it was friendly competition. It was good, clean fun. That's why we did it. It was such an important thing for the sports center to give back to the Grand Lake area, something special and unique that you couldn't do anywhere else. So in the store, they would line up, and we'd have those spreadsheets, and we'd have all the prizes in the back. So you would bring those bobbers in, or take them to the store that was giving away that prize and give them the bobber, and you would pick up your prize. One thing about the bobber drop, it was about putting business and putting people in all the businesses. So we had a real unique opportunity with Dairy Queen. Gave away thousands of free coupons for ice cream cones. Every kid under 12 got a free ice cream cone. So what do you think happened when the kids were all done getting their prizes? First thing, Dad, let's go to Dairy Queen. I want my ice cream. So what do you think happened? They all sit down and eat. Go, congratulations, Dairy Queen. You banked on that one, didn't you? And I'm very glad and happy for you. So here's some more pictures of kids just having a good time, checking in their bobbers. You know, some kids, they wouldn't even check them in. They said the bobber was their prize. They didn't want the prize. The bobber was it, and I said, but I want my bobbers back. So anyway, oh, one more thing. This is bobber number 1. It flew for 5 years. We retired it when we got it back. So each year, we'd get them all back, but about 100, 200 out of 8,000. So those numbers that weren't turned back in, we had to kill that number. And then the next year, the new bobbers, we had to start at 8,000 and go up from there. So if you tried to turn that bobber in the next year, you weren't going to steal somebody else's prize. It got very, very tricky. So it took a lot of work. Um, the KGVE radio station was such a huge player for this. There was a woman named Debbie Stevenson, big player for this area. And she's in Florida, retired now, but we sure miss Debbie. There's another little picture of some people having fun. There's another little kid having fun. So the casino was a big player too. They would give hundreds and hundreds of gifts out of their gift shop. but they would also give away $2,500 in cash. And that's the one everybody always wanted. So we would have, well, what we would do is we would go to the casino at the end of the drop, and we would do a drawing. And I didn't get to draw. I let the people in the casino do it, the tribe, and we would take all these little slips of paper. Every bobber turned in had a slip of paper filled out with your name and phone number on it. And all 8,000 of those slips, or however many we got back, went into that hopper. We'd turn that hopper. Any leftover prizes, we would draw names until they were all gone. Then the last one we would draw would be the $2,500. And one year, the McDaniels, they won it that year, and they came in and got their $2,500, and it was really cool. He goes, I'm going to spend some of it in your store, and I said, I hope you spend it all. But he bought some toys for the kids, and they had a wonderful time. And then another year, we had another winner. She came in. She thought it was $250. When I handed her the $2,500, she started crying. She was so excited. She had no idea. Her parents did say she had to put it in the bank for college. So I don't know if she still has it, if she spent it, or what. But that's what it was all about. And every year, uh, Patty and I, my wife, and my daughter Crystal, I couldn't do it without them. It's so much hard work. I mean, inventorying and counting and collecting prizes. But you know what? It was all worth it. And we would always say, "Go, this is the last year. I'm not going to do it again. This is the last year." And my daughter's sitting behind the cash register, and she's saying, "This is the last year. It's the last year." And a family walks in the door, and the little kid looked up at his dad, and he says, "Daddy, the only time we ever do anything together is during the barber drop." And I looked over at my daughter. She kind of teared up a little bit, and I go, "I guess we're going to do it again." So that's kind of the idea of how everything started. And it's a shame we still can't do it. But those of you that got to do it, I hope you had a really good time. We had fun doing it. And hopefully, maybe we can come up with something different someday. But I appreciate you very much. And one thing I do want to talk about is, don't forget the store that we do have. We provide, information on the lake. We have fishing tackle, water sports, marine accessories, shooting sports, gifts and apparel. And we have free maps. We have referrals for lodging, restaurants, and attractions. And we have the friendliest people in the store. It's amazing. We'll make your experience so much fun. And they have a wealth of knowledge in them. So, one thing I want to say in closing, I want to thank all the servicemen and women, law enforcement, and first responders for their service to keep us safe and living in a free country. It's in very tough times right now, so we can't thank you enough. And Grand Lake, it's more than water. Remember, it's memories and family time. And this is Sam Williams. I thank you so much for watching and listening, and I hope you'll listen to the next one that I do. And hopefully, we'll get back into the history of how this all came together as the community that we live in. The Grand Lake Sports Center podcast. I'm a local who loves my community and supports it with all my heart. And I think anybody will testify to that. Thank you.